Hey guys, so we got a little project here today. Broke the front drive shaft carrier on the TRX4 here, so we're gonna repair that. So we're gonna remove the body here, and yeah, you can see it's just broken right there. So I don't think your wheels are supposed to do that. But anyway, so first thing we're gonna do, the part number we're gonna use to fix it is 8241, Traxxas part. So remove this little cable clamp screw. Pop off the little ball snap here off the mini servo. And then I find it easier if you remove the front bumper, a couple screws inside here that are easier to get to. Put this knot on it. And remove the wheels. So she's a pretty durable truck. Unfortunately, it's not made for jumping a gap between two pieces of concrete, especially when it's cold out. Then we're going to remove these screws right here that on the bottom shock. Both sides. That's released. One screw here. One screw over here. That removes the steering link. Once that's removed, take the screw out of the steering block here. Now there's a little tiny shim or grommet, don't lose it. All four of the steering block screws have that. Move the top one over here. Now that looks a little strange because it's the broken part. So it's just flopping all over. Broken. Now we'll flip the truck upside down. Release the bottom screw on the steering block. And now we got both axles out. The bottom on this one, that's the broken piece, that's why it just fell apart like that. Now, this piece here does not come with your replacement, so you want to take that off. This little guy here. There's the broken piece. Also, the end here, the actual also doesn't come with the new shaft, so, or drive shaft carrier, housing, whatever you want to call it. So there's the part that broke, so we'll just toss that aside, but we're going to keep that. And then every screw is the same size on this job except for the grub screw that holds the drive shaft is a different size. Right up here. Once I remove that, I like to put the grub screw right back into that hole just a little bit. It's one less screw, you got to remember where it goes. I'll do that occasionally on screws that I'm just unsure of, if I that way I don't forget. Well, there's the rest of the drive shaft. We'll set the truck over there for now. And again, there's the other steering block. Now, these pieces here, they actually have a certain pattern, and on the inside they say left, L for left, and the other one has an R for right. It's really small. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera or not. So it's nearly or it is impossible to mix those up, so as long as you don't lose your screws. Okay, and then your cable here has a little E-clamp here. You're going to want to pop that off. These are my nemesis. Me and E-clamps don't get along very good. My fingers are big and the E-clamps are not, so.
Small.
Okay, and then this ball snap here is screwed on to the end here. Now these threads are really tiny, so you got to be delicate, especially when you're putting it back, and you want to make sure that you have the same distance, so it's pretty much right to the end of the threads. That's really important so that when you put everything back together, your shifter actually works for for locking your diff. Otherwise, your little mini servo will be working its butt off, but won't be pulling the lever to lock the diffs. So that's that. And then the diff cover. There's 4 screws on the back side. And that pops that off. And now, when you're taking the actual diff out, just keep in mind how the little shifter is here. This is your locking mechanism for your diffs. So, but for the most part, you just pull this out. Of course, I say it, and now it won't come. Push on the little end there, that helps too. So there's your diff. And of course, anytime I'm opening up differentials, things like that, I like to put it on something clean, so that dirt and hair and stuff don't get stuck in the gears. And of course, as I say that, I see a little piece of hair. So that's the old one. So open the new one up. And inside the old one, take out your little ring gear or whatever you want to call it. And then there's 2 bearings you need to pop. There's one. And I should be able to pop this one from the other side now. There we go. And that's why you had to remove that little clamp off your cable, because it won't fit through the hole otherwise. So there's the old broken one. So here we go. New one. Oh, wrong way. Let's try the other direction. There we go. And there's that. Replace the bearings. Little ring gear. Differential. That's pretty much all in there now. Now is the tricky part. Excuse me. Tricky part, this little shifter. You need to manipulate and twist this so that when this goes back into these 2 little grooves here, your clamp is underneath, twisted underneath. If it's on top, it'll get caught. Oh, bugger. Showing everybody how to do it, but I can't do it myself. Let's try that again. There we go. See? She's moving the, just check that it's moving. The little locking bearing. And then once you got that done, set her down. I had her opened up, so I'm just going to add a little bit of differential oil. You don't need a lot, but put in a little more in there because I had her out, and the some of it's all over my hands now, and some of it's leaked, and except, you know, so on. So and I am just using .100 weight. What am I doing here? I should have had this ready to go so that I didn't have to fumble around with it. Okay, now that we got that working, we're gonna just squeeze a little in here. This is pretty thick stuff. A little hole. It'd almost be better to pour it right out of the bottle, I think, but you know, they give you this fancy little tip here to try and keep it cleaner, so.
I would think it would be messier because when you like scrape it around. and it just like goes everywhere. Where if it was just squirting, you could just go plunk and it would be done.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll roll it around a little bit just to get some in there. Yeah. And try and get some on the actual gear here. Pardon me. Can't think of what that gear is called right at this moment, but maybe this one's called the ring gear. I can't remember for sure. But anyways. Do as I show you, not as I say. Because I don't always know what I'm talking about, I guess. But often I figured out what I'm doing, so. Okay, and then we're going to put the diff cover back on. Yeah, that's these guys here. And yes, I use a drill. Low torque. So now we're going to let the fun begin, because after I get these 4 screws in for the diff cover, we get to try and put that E-clamp back on without pliers. And half the time when I get the pliers into place, the little E-clamp falls out of where I want it to be. Hey, look at that. I got her the first shot. Made a liar out of me. Everybody's watching, so let's make sure. Okay. So, let's see here. This guy back on there. This guy back on there. Perfect. All right, so this will be like that. Reattach these. So putting it back together is basically everything in reverse, but, you know, thanks for hanging out. This is my first crawler truck, and yeah, you know what? I'm kind of falling in love with the whole scale crawling part of it, so. You know, some of these things are actually quite dummy proof. You can't wreck a lot of it putting them back together and taking them apart. Like, they make it so that these only fit a certain way. You know, they're grooved just right so that everything goes back together. You know, amazingly, they even put little tiny etched in L's and R's for left and right, and as long as you remember that the truck is upside down right now, which means that this would actually be this way. So, you know. So hopefully I got that in the right spot. So here's our little cap thing. We'll put that back on before I forget it. This is where you got to be really careful not to cross thread because they're such tiny threads. If you're off at all, it's really, it goes on quite easy at the start. Once you get towards the end, you might be able to hold it with your fingernail. I have pretty strong nails and I'm starting to struggle a bit right there, so that's why I use the pliers to take it off, because even though I can do it, it's a little harsh on the fingers. Alright, so now we need, and I lied because I forgot to take that piece off of the old broken part.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course I got my torque way down, because when I was installing things I didn't want to strip screws or holes in it, so there we go. Oh, let's take the piece, okay. And then that guy, he goes right here. Just like so. Perfect. Reattach. The drive shaft. First, remember, that's what I said, it's the only different size screw on this entire project that I'm working on. That's a 1.5 mil grub screw, whereas the rest of the job I believe is a 2 mil. Yep, 2 mil. So line up the, put that on, line up the hole, put your grub screw back in. Now there's a little Loctite on the grub screw already from factory. I'm not going to add any more because this drive shaft is just plastic, so there's no need to have more. Make sure you tuck your cable back in through here so that it goes up to the top and you're not trying to kink it later. Okay, so this link here goes to this block here that's closest to the differential. And sometimes these little ball joints don't like to line up properly. Oops. Let's try that again. It's going to go real easy once we get her lined up. I think this one might be the worst one just because there's nothing really holding anything together right now. So she just wobbles all over while you're trying to hold 3 things at once. Okay. Now I'm going to put my drive shafts back in and my hub carriers. So obviously, if you look at the steel drive shafts, one's short and one's long. So, and then if you look at the carrier, you got one longer and one shorter end. So the long one goes in the long side. And just kind of spin your little hub till it pops in. Don't forget your grommet, your little spacer. Oop. Let's find the right spot there. There's that one. And then we'll put this one, same thing on this side. Put her in the hole and turn your hub until she kind of pops into place, just like that. Put the screw, and again, make sure you got your little grommet. If you lose that, it's just gonna make it so that your portals, or your carriers, well actually these would be a portal hub carrier. I don't know, it's a little different. This is a portal axle, so these gears are different than most trucks that we own. And then, so that's that. And then this guy goes here. That link goes there, but you also need to bring your shock up. Make sure your fatter side of the flatter fat side of this ball knuckle is on the outside. That's where your long screw goes through now, because it's going to hold that link and your shock all at once. And same thing on the other side. So your link here goes into sometimes these little knuckles just don't like to cooperate. There we go. Just had to take a different angle at it, an angle that you guys couldn't see what I was doing. Perfect. And same thing. This side. Oh, you know what? I grabbed the wrong screw, I think. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Shock screw's over there, the longer one. Needed to go all the way through. There we go. I'm gonna have some thread left to bite in, or it ain't gonna do any good. Okay, there's that. Okay, and then up front here on the other side of the steering servo, you have this link here, goes down on, and of course the little, there we go. Now there's two holes here. The stock hole was the first hole, I guess, or the lowest hole if the truck was facing upright. So we're just going to do that, put her back in there. Okay, and then you have your steering link here. Goes over here from your steering servo to this side here. And every one of these is going to give me trouble so that it looks like I don't know what's going on. Perfect. Oh, that's because I'm being silly. It's actually your cross link here that goes in there. And then the steering goes here. But that'll be easier to do from the other side so that you can see. So that's pretty pretty much it for the bottom half of the truck. So if we flip her over, this is exactly what I was talking about right over here. But before we do that, let's put in our other 2 screws with the spacers or grommets in the top of the steering hub. Or there's one. There's 2. And here's what we were talking about just before I flipped the truck over. That guy goes in there like so. And your steering link from your servo goes on top there. And this longer screw here, down through. Tighten that up. And basically almost done. Just put your there's a little raised piece of knuckle on your cable line that goes back in here, and then a little screw that you took out of there. Just make sure that that little plastic lifter is in here so that you have the right spacing. And snap that guy back on there, just like so. There we go. And now the bumper. Back in place with the grub screws that we took out. And tires. Da-da-da. Which way do I want those? Don't think it matters. So I'm just gonna tighten up the tires here, and you know, that's pretty much that fix. So if it was helpful at all, I sure hope so. So if you found it helpful, then please subscribe for other videos like this in the future. And you know, we also have some cool run videos and things like that. Check them out. And that's it. So we'll put the body back on, and that's all there is for this episode. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And until then, let's get out and play.